angry. Something has happened to him, like something that really touched him. So I asked him, what happened? What is the issue? He now told me that when that thing happened to him, that he was going to that church, when he gave his life to Christ, he was trying to serve in that church. Remember, he has never been to church. He's not a born again. He doesn't like church. He doesn't believe in God before. He doesn't do anything about church before. It doesn't concern him. The first church he went to, he said that they never welcomed him properly. They never accepted him. They allowed him to come to church. But they were all, because he wondered from the beginning, they didn't welcome him. They didn't embrace him as somebody who wanted to change. They didn't welcome him. So he was just coming. He told me he was just trying to cope with them, which means he was trying to. So he said that people were talking about him, gossiping in the church, treating him, with disdain. They're looking at him as somebody who cannot. They are still watching him, for how many months they are still treating him somehow. And one day he overheard the pastor discussing with some of the ladies and some members of the church, telling them to be careful with Stephen, and they were talking about Stephen. They were just Stephen. They were just. He said they were just condemning him and calling him names after how many months? So whatever they said there, and whatever they did that he heard, got to him, and he went back to the street and became 7 times worse than he was before he became born again. So, looking at our text, this is what could have happened to Saul. Because when Saul had an encounter with Jesus, the disciples were not there. The only people that was there were people that was going with him somewhere. The disciples were not there. So when he came to join them, they were all afraid of him, thinking that this guy has not changed. They were all afraid of him, thinking that this guy is still Saul, that used to kill us, that used to deal with us. In the case of Saul, we had Barnabas, who knew, who saw, and who said no. They said it. Barnabas took him in the hand and bring him back to the disciples and begin to explain and tell them, look, this guy had an encounter with Jesus. This guy, I saw him preaching with the name of Jesus. You see, as Christians that we are, like I said initially, we know somebody who is a sinner right now. We know somebody who is into sin now. And the way we treat them, the way we relate to them, has a long way to go. The way we treat sinners, because all of us, we were once sinners. Like I'm telling you my story here, I've been in First Start for almost 18 years now. So in the 18 years, I've been with pastor for more than 15 years. Imagine the long distance. I was in church, but I was still a sinner. I lived in the West Quarters here from 512. We moved from 512. We were the ones who came to this place from that side to this place. But we are still into sin when we were living here. Most of us. Because if they tell you the story of people that was here before, you will understand what I mean. But now you see there is no people in the boys' quarter. Then we had more than 15 men in the boys' quarter. Most of us today are pastors. You can see Friday laughing there. Pastor is over here. Samuel is here. We have a lot of us then. Some have left. But you see, how we treat sinners has a long way to go. Because now, in the case of Stephen didn't have any Barnabas to say, I saw him preaching. I know this guy have changed. But Stephen that I know was a genuine guy. He changed. Because he wasn't like somebody invited him to church, somebody came to give him flyer. And when he was preaching, what amazed me is that he wasn't, it's not like they are going for outreach, they are going to give flyers. He chose to preach to people that he knew, to tell them to change. Nobody sent him. It wasn't a program. He went on his own to convince people to change because he changed. But because people in the church that he went to begin to talk, begin to disassociate, begin to condemn, begin to lament, and begin to say things, we are all human beings. Especially someone like Stephen, who have not been to church before. That was the first church he went into. You know, the experience will be different from me that has been in Potter's house for 15 years. And maybe I go to another church and somebody says something, I say, forget about that, so church be. I understand. Somebody who has not been with God, who has not known anything about church, just went to one church and getting there after some months, they begin to condemn and they begin to. One thing we should always understand and always put at the back of our minds is that sinners are very attractive to God. Sinners are very, very attractive to God. The reason why we are doing everything we are doing, this building, launching out churches, spending money, printing flyers, going conference, all that churches you are seeing, is for the sinners. It's not for the righteous people. It's not for anybody that thinks they are righteous. This place is a house of sinners. This is where sinners should be coming. But when we see sinners and begin to look at them as, you begin to disassociate, begin to talk about them, begin to condemn them, begin to look them with, because you know them. The problem with the church, the problem with the pastor, the problem with Stephen was because they knew him. Just like the apostles, like the disciples of Jesus Christ, they knew Saul. They know that this guy is a killer. So believing that this guy have changed become a problem. Believing that someone has changed is always a problem. I've seen it. Even me, as I became a pastor, I heard there are things I heard from people, because they know me. Because they know me. So they begin to talk about me, and who am I? What am I supposed to do? That is the truth. They're saying the truth. But sometimes, we should not allow what we know to hinder the work of God. Because we know a lot. Gideon was the worst smoker in Nigeria. We saw him, we know. That's what that's how they treated Stephen. They treated